and breathe. Wow, 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 wow. UEFA Champions League, huh? No. Yeah, my hat goes off to both Real Madrid and Manchester City. Oh. Over 2 legs. Wow. Entertainment value of the highest order. But anyway, a warm welcome to Disky Talk with Liolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Real Madrid versus Manchester City as I have a tactical post-match analysis of the encounter that ended 3-1 in favor of Real Madrid in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-final, and on aggregate ends 6-5 in favor of Real Madrid. So, coming up into this encounter then, the last time out they played within the first leg at the Etihad, Manchester City did win that game 4-3. So, coming to the Bernabeu then, Manchester City had the 1-goal advantage. But what stuck out the last time then was the fullback area, especially for Manchester City, with regards to the fact that both João Cancelo and Kyle Walker weren't available. But coming into this encounter then, they were both available. And then, when you do look at Real Madrid, the last time out, they didn't start with Casemiro, but in this game, they started with Casemiro and they went with 4 midfielders. However, let's have a look at the personalities that started for Real Madrid and how then Real Madrid went about things. So, when you have a look at Real Madrid underneath Carlo Ancelotti this season, they have mostly lined up in a 4-3-3. However, in this game, they went with a 4-2-3-1. So, in goals then, they started with Thibaut Courtois. At left back, they started with Ferland Mendy. As the left-sided centre-back, they started with Nacho. They started with Eder Militao as the right-sided centre-back. At right back, they then started with Dani Carvajal. Moving on right along then, within the heart of midfield, they started with Casemiro, Toni Kroos, and then they started with Modric as well. When you have a look at the front three then, they started with Vinicius off the left, Benzema up top, and then on the right hand side they did start with Valverde. So when you have a look then at Real Madrid in possession of the ball, what were they trying to do? So Real Madrid then in possession of the ball, they went very aggressive within the opposition half. So a lot of the times what you did see then from this Real Madrid side is that you saw Vinicius going there, you had Benzema, you had Valverde looking to tuck in, and then you had Modric as well. And then you had Carvajal would offer the width on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, you did have Ferland Mendy looking then to offer the width. So a lot of the times then, their offensive scheme looked pretty much like this within the opposition half, as Real Madrid then was looking to get that goal and ensure then that they're able then to get back into the tie. So a lot of the times then Real Madrid did have somewhat of a front six shape within the opposition half, and that's how then they were looking to go. Without the ball then, how they were looking to press, as they were looking to press high up, they were looking then to press with a 4-4-2. So what they did then is they would have Vinicius there, you had Benzema, and then you had Modric joining up top with Benzema, and then you had Valverde. So with Valverde then, he was quite key then coming up into this one, as he's not a traditional right winger, but he is then a midfield player. So then when you have a look at Real Madrid having then the steal and being able to combat within the heart of midfield, that's one of the reasons why then Valverde started. So without the ball then, Real Madrid then were looking to press in a 4-4-2. At times it would be a 4-2-3-1 whenever then they were deep in their own half, because then you'd have Modric looking to drop there. They were looking then to press with the 2, and it would be a 4-4-2 when they'd look to press. at times would be a 4-2-3-1. Their offensive shape and their offensive scheme within Manchester City's half would then go to a 2-2-6, because then they were obviously looking to get those goals. And speaking of those goals, how did those goals come about? So when you have a look at how then the goals come for Real Madrid, well, it comes with the changes. And I think then when you have a look at Rodrygo and Benzema, they were quite key then with regards to ensuring that they were able to get this tie to the extra time. So when you have a look at it then, Rodrygo does come off the bench, and the goal then, which is scored, the first goal then, you've got Benzema who pulls off into that pocket of space. He then goes into the box. Modric plays a beautiful cross for him, and then Benzema is able to lay it off with his head into the path of Rodrygo, and then Rodrygo finishes. The second goal then is a cross from the right hand side from Dani Carvajal, where he puts it in, and then Rodrygo is able then to finish off that chance. The third goal then comes from Rodrygo out wide, where then he gets the ball within that wide channel. He plays it into Benzema. Benzema gets ahead of Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz fouls him, and then it is a penalty. Benzema then ensures that he places that penalty cool, calm, and composed. So those are the three goals for Real Madrid with regards to how they scored them. And overall, then, when you look at it, I think Real Madrid really came alive within the last 7 minutes of the 90 minutes. That's when they really came alive, and they were able then to ensure that they got those key goals. Especially then when you look at Rodrygo, he comes off the bench and he's able then to impact the game. When you look at the subs that really made a difference for this Real Madrid side, it is Rodrygo and Camavinga within the heart of midfield, where then he was key with regards to how he was looking to combat, how he won the ball, and how he progressed the ball and carried the ball for this Real Madrid side. And also what was key then for Real Madrid were the fans on the night with regards to providing that atmosphere and being able to spur Real Madrid on, irrespective of how Real Madrid was struggling then for large parts of the encounter. But when it mattered most at the death, within the last couple of minutes, within the 90, Real Madrid were able to get the goals then. A brace from Rodrygo, and then a Benzema penalty. Those are the three goals then from a Real Madrid perspective. However, let's have a look at Manchester City with regards to how they went about things. So with Manchester City then, coming up into this encounter, they did line up then in a 4-3-3. So when you have a look at their 4-3-3, Edison started in goals. At right back, you had Kyle Walker. Two centre-backs. You had Ruben Diaz as the right-sided centre-back. Left-sided centre-back, you had Emerick Laporte. And then as the left-back, you then had João Cancelo. So when you have a look at it then, where City struggled within the first leg were in the two full-back positions, by virtue of the fact that the tactical behaviour of the full-backs for a Pep Guardiola side within this Manchester City team, they become very, very key. And the reason then is that they offer you then that superiority, that qualitative superiority in possession of the ball and out of possession with regards to how they look to position themselves. And then when you look at Kyle Walker, he's got that speed. And in the first leg, you did then see Stones and mostly Fernandinho struggling against the speed of Vinicius. However, in this encounter, for large parts of the game, when Kyle Walker was on the pitch, he was able then to keep up with Vinicius and kept him quiet at times. So that was very key then. And then we did see Kyle Walker going off. Cancelo had to go to the other side, and then Zinchenko then came on to the left-hand side. When you have a look at the midfield then for this Manchester City side, they did start with Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, who then started in the right-sided half space, whereas in the first leg, he did start in the left-sided half space. But in this game then, they looked then to go on their natural side with regards to how they were looking to occupy the half spaces. So you had Kevin De Bruyne there, and then you had Bernardo Silva. The front three then that they did start with, you then had Mahrez off the right hand side. Off the left hand side, you had Phil Foden. Up front, you had Gabriel Jesus. However, let's then look at Manchester City in possession of the ball and how then they were looking then to institute their offensive scheme within the opposition half. When you have a look at Manchester City then, what they did is in the opposition half, you'd have Jesus there. You'd have Mahrez looking to stay high and wide. You had Phil Foden staying high and wide. And then you had Kevin De Bruyne within the right side at half space. You had Bernardo there. And then you had Rodri. And then you had Kyle Walker. You had the two centre-backs there. And then you had João Cancelo looking to invert. So Manchester City then, with regards to their offensive scheme, a lot of the times their shape was a 2-3-5, as this is the offensive scheme that they would normally take up. A lot of the times it is a 3-2-5. However, because then caution to the wind had to be in the fullback areas, you had both fullbacks looking then to ensure that they stayed within those deep defensive pockets and they weren't looking to always bomb forward, especially then on the right hand side with the threat of Vinicius. Kyle Walker then had to ensure that he stayed deep a lot of the times as he didn't advance much. That was then their rest defense with regards to how then they were looking then to counter whenever Real Madrid looked to win the ball and hit them on the counter attack. That's what their rest defense looked like. So it was a rest defense of an M. So it is then a block of a 2-3, where then you've got the two centre backs, you've got Rodri and the two full backs that were looking to come inside and look then to ensure that they had 5 men behind the ball, so that this Real Madrid side couldn't successfully hit them on the counter attack and successfully have those offensive transitions, especially considering then that Real Madrid's biggest threat came from Vinicius on the night by virtue of his speed. And you've also got Benzema as well, but they ensured that they were able to keep them quiet. However, let's have a look at Manchester City with regards to how they look to press. So with Manchester City, they look to press in a very narrow 4-4-2. So you'd have Kyle Walker there, you'd have Cancelo there, and then you'd have Bernardo Silva dropping alongside Rodri to make it a 2 in midfield. You had De Bruyne coming up alongside Jesus, and then you had Mahrez, and then you had Phil Foden. That is how Manchester City looked to press this Real Madrid side. They went in a very narrow 4-4-2. However, in the first leg, Manchester City could successfully press them, and Real Madrid weren't finding joy with regards to their build-up phase. However, in this game, quite a couple of times, Real Madrid did find quite a bit of success with regards to building up from the back within the 90. It's just that when they worked it into consolidation phase, they couldn't find that quality pass into the final third where they were looking to penetrate. But Real Madrid were able to successfully build up a couple of times. Why did they do that? Well, when you look at Real Madrid then, because they started Valverde, they had a fourth midfielder. So a lot of the times when teams look to build up, you'd have the two centre-backs opening up, and then you'd have the pivot coming in. That would be Casemiro. So because then City look to square up, so you have De Bruyne going on Nacho, and then you've got Jesus going on Militao. Then whenever the pivot looks to collect, Bernardo Silva would look to follow. But because now Cruz then became the extra man in midfield, he could then look to collect, and he was free. And Rodri then couldn't follow, because if Rodri follows, then you've got that space in behind Manchester City's midfield. Then you've got Valverde, who's a natural midfielder, who could always look to come in. And then you've got Carvajal, who would offer the width on the right-hand side for this Real Madrid side. So that is why then Real Madrid, throughout the 90 minutes, at times they were able to successfully build up. So that is how Manchester City went in regards to in possession and out of possession. So in possession, their offensive scheme was then a 2-3-5, and then when they look to press, they look to press with a very narrow 4-4-2. And then when you have a look at the goals, so they only managed to score 1 goal, and that came by virtue of Bernardo Silva with regards to how then he carried the ball very well. And how he carries the ball very well, he then ensures that he's able then to lay that ball off. Once he lays that ball off, he lays it off for an oncoming Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez then whips it into top corner. That was the 1 goal that City scored. And when you looked at that goal, you thought it was game, we thought that the game was over. But Real Madrid came back at the death. When you have a look at Manchester City's subs, well, you had Gundogan coming on and Jack Grealish. And I thought that they had very good moments. They had very, very good moments, as Jack Grealish could have actually finished it off and scored. But a key component of why Real Madrid stayed in the tie and went on to win it is this man. And he goes by the name of Ferland Mendy. Why? He clears the ball off the line when Grealish manages to go past, and Grealish almost scores. Ferland Mendy clears the ball off the line, and that is the big moment that keeps this Real Madrid side in the tie. Overall, though, when you have a look at this encounter, so Manchester City were in control for large parts, and I think that their game management was spot on the night. However, in the last couple of minutes, I just feel that their defensive organization went terribly wrong with regards then to how they were looking to mark in their box and defend their box. And there was no pressure on the ball whenever the ball went wide and Real Madrid were looking to whip it in. That is where it went all wrong for Manchester City. In the dying minutes, they lost that concentration. On the night though, Real Madrid do ensure that they win 3-1, to ensure that they win 6-5 on aggregate, and they do go through to the UEFA Champions League final, where they will play against Liverpool on the 28th of May at in Paris, where then they will play in France. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Disky Talk with Luyolo. I thoroughly enjoyed this UEFA Champions League encounter, as I do think that in recent years, this is one of the best UEFA Champions League encounters we've seen over 2 legs. Signing out.